Montgomery is the first capital. It's Virginia. It's the largest. It's the most influential. Remember, to this point in history, we've had Washington, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, Tyler, and William Henry Harrison, all born in Virginia. It's physically the largest state. And Virginia in 1860 had 5 of the 100 largest cities in the United States, starting at Richmond and Alexandria, which was 74th. Wheeling in 1860 had several thousand people more than Alexandria, Virginia. Okay? So Virginia then is put at a crossroads in early 1861 of, do they stay in the Union or do they leave? And what will happen is that they will hold a series of meetings. And on April the 17th, the convention in Richmond votes to secede. But they will delay it long enough to see if the people of Virginia will vote for it. Well, when the delegates from this part of Western Virginia came together after that momentous convention, they said, what are we going to do? Are we going to have our futures determined by people who own slaves? And there are almost no slaves in this. In fact, you would probably be surprised that in the state of Virginia, out of a population of 1.6 million, there are fewer than 500,000 slaves. There are only 26% of Virginians who own slaves. That's all, 26%. Wheeling's, in Virginia, the slave population, 490,865. In Wheeling, number of slaves, about 70. Now, your math's probably better than mine. You can find out whatever slavery is, it's a very small amount here. Okay? Not that we didn't have slaves. We had them, but we have very few. So these guys get together and they say, what should we do? So when they start going back to their homes in Northern Virginia, they find out that people already back here are holding meetings about what to do. There's one in Kingwood, there's one in Wheeling, there's one in Clarksburg, and all these people are getting together and say, do we want to go along with this? So they have a meeting in Clarksburg, and sometimes it's called the Clarksburg Convention. And I'll give you the date on that if I can find it. It's April the 22nd. It's 5 days later. Well, look where Clarksburg is on a map. It's south of the B&O Railroad line for a little bit, and it's closer to the southern part of the state where there are more people who are interested in slavery. So they decide, let's have a meeting in a relatively safe place. Well, where's that going to be? Wheeling. First of all, you can get here fast because you can get on the train. So they meet in Wheeling in the first convention in May of 1861. And what they decide to do is to do nothing until the Virginia people vote for secession. And the vote of secession is held the following month in May, and overwhelmingly, Virginia votes for secession, but not in the Panhandle. In fact, there's only one precinct, Miss Cummins, only one precinct that voted for secession. And that precinct was in what town? No? Bethany. Now, if you've ever been to Bethany College in Old Main, you will, if you're in back of Old Main, you'll say, And if you've ever been on the campus of the University of Virginia, you'll say, gee, these look familiar. They are. because Bethany's was patterned after that. And Bethany got a lot of students from southern parts of Virginia. And so they were more likely, you know, I heard for years that the reason Bethany and West Liberty students never got along was that West Liberty was a good Union place. And it was. And, you know, the rebels lived up there in Bethany.
Dr. Javersak, was it knowing that Lincoln was going to be president that triggered their desire for secession or their thoughts about it? I mean, why was the fact that he was going to be president going to cause?
Because, see, it's always a question of power. See, when Nancy Pelosi had power in Congress, it was too much power. Now, who said that? Republicans. Now, I'll venture to say that you're not going to see too many Republicans in the next month or so say, you know, John Boehner has too much power. No. Power is a two-pronged question. Who has it and how much? If you don't have it, whoever else has it, they have too much. Okay? And you don't know about Lincoln. Lincoln's made these speeches about being opposed to the extension of slavery. If he's elected, is he going to change that? Now you might say, well, there's no reason for that. Well, okay, let me give you a for instance. Our son's a principal of an elementary school in Virginia. And a year ago in August or September, you recall the present president of the United States was going to make a speech to the public school kids about staying in school. And there were so many people saying, oh my God, you can't do that. And our son got calls and said, are you going to let the president speak to our students? And he said, well, that decision is being made by the board. He said, because you know what he's going to do? He's going to push abortion. And our son said, I don't think so. But what we're going to do is we're going to listen to the speech, and then we're going to play it later, so if there's anything offensive in it. Okay? Now, did the president say anything about abortion? No. Was he ever going? No. But if you're convinced that that's the case, just as people are going to be convinced that, oh, Lincoln has to be a terrible man, he's going to do this to us. How do you know? Lincoln was not interested in trying to destroy slavery immediately. But where the South made its major error was that they just conducted themselves in such a way that Lincoln said, you can't destroy the Union. I will not permit that. As I think I was doing an interview last week, and I told the interviewer that there are some historians who think that the South could have won had they had a Lincoln as a president. That's how, you know, his conceptual view of how to do his job was such. Okay? But he's an unknown. And we always fear the unknown. So Lincoln is to be feared. And, you know, when he frees the slaves. So anyhow, we decided we're not going to do anything. We'll let the people vote. They do vote. They secede. Virginia decides to secede. And in June of that same year, we reconvened here in Wheeling, and we did two things. Number one, we came up with what's called the Declaration of Independence for West Virginia. And it's not a very long document. In fact, I just may happen, I do. I just happen. It's nice when I remember to bring stuff. Okay? This was adopted by the June Convention, June 17th, 1861, and I will read you just the preamble. The true purpose of all government